Alright guys, we got some white caps and it's very windy in between these storms. The groundhog, he saw his shadow, so we're gonna have an early spring supposedly. He's pretty accurate, so that might happen, have an early spring. And also, you guys, they just let a bunch of baby salmon out in the Sac River right now. I think it was like 240,000 little juvenile salmon out in the Sac River. So hopefully we got good returns on them. Usually the returns on those guys are only about 1 to 10% back, that make it back from the ocean to spawn. So hopefully they got it. It's up near Barge Hole. Battle Creek is where the hatchery is, and that's where I think they released them, somewhere around there, up in Redding, way up near the Shasta Dam, down a little bit near Redding though. Hope you guys liked the video.
The organization found the most accurate animal, Staten Island chuck, with the New York City Staten Island Zoo with an 85% accuracy. Even our own weather predicting groundhog here in Central Ohio is more accurate than Punxsutawney Phil. Buckeye Chuck has a 55% rating. So we are certainly hoping he is right.
What's happening, guys? Out here just checking the river, soaking my line here. When I make these videos, I'm just checking it after work here just for about an hour or two. So most likely I'm not going to catch fish, but sometimes I do. But the main focus in this video is just to show you guys, keep you guys up to date on the river, because we have quite a few atmospheric river systems coming along here, and we're about in the middle of it. And in this video I'll show you guys two good places kind of after it clears up to fish and to get on some striper. Right now I'm on the Sac River where I normally go. I'm just soaking a chunk of anchovies right now, but I'll show you guys a little drone footage here in a minute of the river conditions. It's not terribly bad. There's not a bunch of debris and stuff in the water. But I've been soaking it for about 10 minutes now and no bites. But one key thing is you don't want to fish in the middle, way in the middle. You want to see this clearing, see where the water doesn't have any ripples on it. That's an eddy right there. So it's either kind of shallow near a drop off, or it just creates an eddy current right here. So that's right where you want to cast your bait. That way it won't get taken in the current really strong, and it won't get a bunch of stuff, usually won't get a bunch of stuff on your line. Alright guys, also one bait that's really effective right now when the water is muddy and kind of blown out. The fish are using all their other senses, and that you need to make noise. This guy right here, it's just a swim bait on a chatterbait, and what this does is this guy, when it goes along, it's just chattering and it's making a noise, kind of like a fish makes a noise, and it just helps, you know, make sure you put some scent on there and you got the noise and you got the visual. Chartreuse, one of my favorite colors, grafter striper. So yeah, try this guy, and should have a lot more effect just because it has a little extra noise to it. And it's tough on the current to cast these things, but I don't know if you can see right in this tower, there's probably fish hanging in there. Oh, there's a bite right there. It's a nice little bite. Hit it again. See my line? It's just barely, just right here. It's not far that way. That way it doesn't get taken in the current. You got to really look for these eddy currents right now. So just in case that fish is nibbling on my line, I like to reel it just a little bit. Let's see if he bites on there. And I just had a little chunk on there too, so after this I'm gonna check it and probably rebait. That's another thing, guys. This water washes your bait out super fast, so it doesn't hurt to put extra scent on your bait. Or if you have it soaking for a while and you still got your bait on, you don't want to throw it off or cut it off. Just soak it more in some kind of scent and throw it back out. Or some guys, even right now when it's dirty, they'll throw it right on their fresh bait. They'll throw extra scent on there. That's how much debris right there. Not too bad. About 15 minutes of soaking the bait. And there's my chunk. Still good. Still good to go. But I'm going to put a freshie on there. When you're out here fishing, you in the strong current like this, you want to find those eddy currents. And I'm coming up to one right now. See the big S turns in the river like this? Right behind those, there's a lot of times there's sandbars or just currents that aren't very strong. It's a swirling current, so it's not in the main current, but it's just a swirling current, just like this beach right here you got to the right. See that? And then this is all a sandbar right there to your right. That sandy beach goes out quite a ways. And then right there, right here, that's where you got a big eddy current. Fishing areas like that are really good. You could see the current to the left there. It's kind of going around. But also when you are trolling, another thing about trolling, it's about to be really good for trolling here, is make sure you tune your troll, whatever you're trolling with, make sure you tune it. And what I mean by that is usually I run a worm on the bottom treble hook. If it's not on the bottom one, if it's on the side or something like that, it's going to not swim right. And what I mean by tuning it is you want to put your lure in the water just a little bit, and so you can see it and see if it's swimming perfectly straight up and down and perfectly straight. Sometimes I've had them to where they're not tuned straight out of the box. So you just make sure you check that and make sure they're tuned right. That's one really important thing, because if they're not tuned right, guys, I've had this problem and I learned the hard way. They will actually just pretty much be on the surface of the water. So you just want to get that down. Either if you're doing a deep diver or a shallow diver, you want to get that lure down as low as you can to where those fish are on the bottom. That's where the fish are right now. They're sitting on the bottom, and then that incoming high tide, they're going into the shallow flats and feeding. And some strong winds. And right here, here's another good, really good eddy current. Oops. All this right here is all prime. There's a huge sandbar right here, right in the middle. There's a big sandbar, and you can see the always if you having a hard time telling where the eddy currents, look right here. It's perfect. See the ripples? This is a perfect example right here. See all those ripples? I'm right in the center of it right now. So to the left is the eddy current, where it's a lot calmer, and then to the right is the main current. You can really see that there with the ripples there. Just two good areas right now in the wintertime when the rivers are really blowing out. Feather River is always going to be much clearer, or get much clearer much quicker, because it's shallower. The rivers always stay muddier much longer than the delta system, because the delta system has a lot of flats and has a much wider body of water for it to clear out and dissipate much faster. And when you're fishing the tides, guys, always remember, if you get out there in a bad tide, that's just that area. If you travel about 30 minutes on your boat, you could skip about 2 hours of tide. So you can go from area to area, like Big Break near the San Joaquin side, or you can go over to like Liberty Island or Sherman on the Sacramento side, just depending on the tides. But when it's flooding in, high tide, coming into high tide, that's when the river velocity is much higher, and it's pushing the muddy water into the delta more. So that's when the water is going to be much dirtier when it's low tide, outgoing low tide. And then the two best tides to fish troll is going to be your slack tide, when the water's not moving. That's another thing to watch, is how fast the drop-offs are and how much the water is moving. So how high the tide is and how fast it's moving has a big key. The higher, or the faster the tide's moving, the better the flats are going to be on incoming high tide. And then you want to fish troll when it's like no tides, or when it's slack tides, just on the top of the tide or on the bottom of the tide. It really doesn't matter, but that's when you want to troll. That's exact time that you can cover some ground and try and locate some fish and set up for a new location. But you could just troll around that time. That's going to be your best time.